Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Burn the Wagon. Okay, I'm gonna have my guest on, Rose Hammock, who is an artist out of Sonoma County. It's gonna be an amazing talk today. So yeah, hopefully she joins me soon. I just sent a request over, so thank you for joining me in Burn the Wagon. We're here to burn down the wagon that is patriarchy, colonialism, and capitalism. So we're out to take out those three things, you know what I mean? And we're here to amplify our voices as Native people. So yeah, thank you for joining me if you've never seen before. So hopefully she'll be joining me here shortly. So yeah, I hope everyone's having a good day. And if you're in the Santa Cruz area tomorrow, there will be a women's event and protest at the lighthouse. Let's see what's going on. I wonder why she's not able to join. Hopefully. Well, yeah, there's going to be a protest in. Hello.
Hi,
Thank you for joining me. Very, very nice to meet you virtually for the first time.
how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm doing good today. I got invited to speak at a event tomorrow for a women's protest, so I'm excited about that.
Nice.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
Good.
Nice, nice. Thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it. I love your art and I love everything you do. So I'm
Thank
super
you.
excited for you to have you on right now. So yeah, I'm excited right now. Okay, so first I like to just go ahead and give you an intro, where you're from and your background, and then tribes that you are from, and if you grew up on a reservation or not. And if not, it doesn't matter. I just like to get that out there and let people know where you're from.
Okay. So my name is Rose Hammock. I live here in Santa Rosa, born and raised. I'm enrolled with Round Valley. That's where my great grandma comes from. But my family comes from Big Valley, and we're intermarried with a couple other tribes from here. So we're Pomo and Wailaki from Round Valley, and back I was doing our family tree. I was doing research and I found out that we have Maidu ancestry as well, probably 3 or 4 generations back from my grandpa. And then my dad's mom, my grandma, is from a tribe up in Oregon. So that's kind of like our mixture from here. And then from my mom's people, our family comes from Mazatlan in Mexico and Managua and Acoyapa in Nicaragua.
Wow.
And that comes from my mom's mom and her birth dad. So
Wow.
kind of a mixture of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a cool
So
mixture.
yeah,
And did you grow up in Round Valley or in just mainly Sonoma County?
just Sonoma County. Always lived in Santa Rosa. I've always lived close to the Roseland School District. I went to Bellevue Elementary, then I went to Cook Middle School, then I went to Elsie Allen High School, and then I stayed close for college. I went to the Santa Rosa Junior College.
Okay, that's cool. That's a question I was gonna ask actually about LCL in high school, because she was an amazing basket maker, right?
Yes, one of the most so intricate and just very fine details. To me, one of the best weavers that we had. Um, there's a lot of things like our basket weaving. I think a lot of people think are just kind of gone and have disappeared, but we still have a lot of women out there, and we have men too that still basket weave. That's a part of the culture that we're still able to hold on to. And sometimes I think because, we're in more of a modern time, I know a lot of the youth, they get distracted by things like TikTok and all that stuff, but, there's a lot of opportunities for us to use those kind of tools also to keep the culture going. So, we have events now where, we could tape someone through Zoom doing basket weaving and keep that in like archives. People who speak the language, recording them telling stories, or just asking questions and sitting with elders from different places. Um, I think for anyone out there who's not familiar, there's a lot of excellent books, and there's even videos you can find on YouTube that teach you more about who Elsie Allen was. But Elsie Allen, Mabel McKay are just a few really more well-known basket weavers. But we have a lot of basket weavers that come from Lake and Mendocino County too. But Mabel McKay and Elsie Allen are two basket weavers that their people come from Sonoma County area.
Okay. My mom
Yeah.
just started basket weaving, so she's making me a basket right now, actually. And she does
Nice.
does like she does little small ones, but I love them. It's cool. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure she goes out and picks some stuff. I can't remember what it is that she picks for the basket, but she definitely goes
Yeah.
there and gets the stuff, and it's amazing to see what her end product is.
Yeah.
Because she sits there.
Yeah, we can't just go to a Walmart or a Michael's craft store and get our weaving materials.
Yeah,
We have to learn how to have that relationship with the plants to go and gather them again.
yeah, definitely. That's amazing. And I like you said on TikTok and stuff, I see a lot of that stuff trying to come back, and a lot of people trying to educate and have a voice to be out there, and I love it. And that's I kind of get stuck in the native TikTok sometimes, but
Yeah.
and so let's now we're speaking about art and jewelry and stuff. I want to ask you about your art and what got you into making and your process and stuff like that. What do you go through? What places do you get your stuff from? I mean, like, do you go out and pick and stuff like that? Yeah, if you want to reveal those secrets, but if not, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For me, I grew up watching my grandpa do a lot of beadwork. He mostly worked with seed beads, and he did a technique of beading called peyote stitch or peyote stitch, which if you're weaving and beading around something that is like a hair stick, for example, this is one, it's just like a skewer,
Uh-huh.
and then the end I wrap it in leather.
Okay.
And so when you're done with it, you get something like this.
Wow.
So this is one I just recently finished. This one's much shorter. So that technique is this part right here. You start with just one row all the way around, and then once you start that row, it's just one bead at a time until you're finished. There are like a lot quicker techniques. I don't know the right term for it. I think it's called wrap stitch.
Uh-huh.
But I notice a lot of the more Powell style beadwork I see. They'll wrap their usually their necklace, like a rope necklace, and they'll wrap it for 2 to 3 inches, and then they go back and like tack it down. I'm not familiar with that stitch, but when I do my hair sticks, I do peyote stitch or peyote stitch. So I watched my grandpa do that a lot when I was little, but I didn't really get into beadwork until probably a little over 3 years ago. My mom had passed away,
Uh-huh.
and I kind of needed a good outlet to kind of find some healing through that. And I decided to go to my dad who does beadwork and just ask him to teach me a few things here and there. So he taught me how to do earrings. So I started doing just like basic style earrings, just
Wow.
that hang down, and just kind of practice and practice. And then I started to pick up using different colors, using different materials. I do more like a mixture of traditional materials and more contemporary materials. So like a pair of earrings like
Wow.
this, the abalone is there, and then the pine nuts I do go out and pick myself. And then the bottom is just like a kind of like a little trinket type, probably picked it up from a Michael's somewhere. And so I like to be able to use the beads, but also use traditional materials. Once in a while, I will work with clamshells as well, but not so much for like stuff for sale. Uh, and then sometimes I just went up to Reading
Hmm.
for a bear dance ceremony, and they have a really good bead store up there called the Bead Man, and they sell these like triangle shaped beads.
Wow.
And so I put it with some abalone I had, and then another one of the little trinkets at the bottom.
Those are
So I
cool.
just like to kind of play with different designs, use different materials, and then sometimes I just like to do plain stuff with just the abalone because it's got a good shine to
Yeah,
it, and I don't know, something about the shells reminds me of just all of our coast people, our coast relatives, and um, I go to our roundhouse ceremonies, and so I like to make stuff too, just for like family. You know, if I know that I'm going to be able to see an elder I haven't seen in a while, especially with COVID. A lot of our elders didn't go to ceremony and still aren't going to ceremony, so just seeing them once in a while and gifting them something is something I like to do. It feels special to be able to make something that with a skill that I've been able to learn from my dad and my grandpa, and um, I don't know. It to me it feels meaningful to be able to make something with my hands and then give it to an elder, and just kind of show them my love and appreciation for them.
absolutely. And the things you make are beautiful, and the time it takes to put into those, you know there is love in there because you can see it
Hmm.
in your artwork. You know what I mean? And I love it. You know, I love sharing your stuff. I love seeing your stuff. I
Thank
definitely hope
you.
to see more. Yeah, because it's in only 3 years. Man, that your artwork is amazing.
Thank you.
And it's like you said, it's going from your dad or your grandpa to your dad to you. So it's at some point, I believe it was destined for you to definitely start making jewelry, and and it's amazing. In the only 3 years, it's crazy to see the progress you've made.
Yeah, and every year, we're learning like new skills, or we're learning how to work with different materials. Um, I would say besides working with the abalone, I think like venturing into using different colors and different patterns as well. So something like these ones, it's just using two colors, the white, and then these are called bugle beads.
Uh-huh.
They're long beads that kind of twist around, and it's kind of hard to see on the camera, but they're kind of like a light purple color. So I used to just know how to work with like white and black and maybe a little bit of color, but now I'm starting to get more comfortable using different colors. So using like three different shades of blue and making something really long, versus just doing something short and simple. So it kind of goes back to, for me, watching a lot of the young girls when they dance. A lot of our women, we wear all types of different dresses and skirts when we dance. And so I always pay attention to the ribbons on their dress, or if there's different colors in their dress. It gives me inspiration.
Wow.
Um, when I was making these ones, I was thinking of the ocean. And when I was at the ocean, I actually, not from our people, but I had seen a woman in a traditional dress. And I went up and I introduced myself, and I was like, I love your dress. It's beautiful. Do you mind if I ask, you know, who your people are, where your people come from? And she said that she was Hoopa, which is up north from us, and so her dress was like a shiny blue color, and it kind of gave me that inspiration to use the different blues. And then also, we see the blue in the water at the ocean. I think for a lot of the times when I work with more traditional material like the pine nuts, there's different ways to process it. You can cook pine nuts and they can turn black. I was taught that you cook them outside because they get kind of stinky,
Uh-huh.
and you don't want that smell to stay up in the house. And so you can cook them in just a little bit of oil, and they get a really dark skin on them. And you can sand some of it off, or you can just leave them like that. A lot of the abalone that I get from a place called Shipwreck Beads, which I believe is up in Washington.
Uh-huh.
They have a really good website. You can order abalone that's already cut, which for me, I'm not that experienced working with abalone quite yet. So for me, that's a good option for me, just to, it's easier for me to work with, but it's also a good opportunity for me to support other Native businesses and other Native artists. And there's some of us too that still use trade. So if I make, someone wants a hair stick,
Uh-huh.
which personally don't charge a whole lot for my beadwork. I'm still new and learning about it. And so if I have, beadwork done and someone has something that I don't have, like maybe, they have a strand of the abalone that's already cut and polished, and maybe just needs some holes drilled in it, we'll trade each other instead of doing it for payment. And
That's
so
awesome.
for some of us, that's a good opportunity to help one another
Yeah.
in our craft that we do, but it's also just a good way to support what they are doing, and to acknowledge that, this is what I made with those things, but I supported that person and what they were making.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. That's so awesome that bringing back that trade aspect of things, because we shouldn't put a dollar on everything because, you know, I,
Mm,
I love that trade aspect of things. It takes it back to a long time ago, to traditional,
yeah.
like, and it kind of leads me into my next question to like decolonizing and stuff like
Mm,
that. And I kind of wanted to ask you, what does decolonize or land back mean to you?
yeah. I think, when we look at, well, not mainstream media so much as how we see it in Native community. We kind of have our own stream of media where we see, other people in the Native community putting things like land back. I don't know if people out there have seen Reservation Dogs, but even in there, they have, land back graffitied on different places, because that's a real thing. There's a lot of tribes doing really hard work trying to get land back for their people. I think for certain tribes, especially like around the Bay Area, most people don't even know that they're there, because when they think Bay Area, it's just, oh, the stores or malls and different
Yeah.
things like that. But every land that we stand on is Native land, and there's Native or Indigenous people everywhere we go. I think it's important that we take the time to try and research where we're traveling or where we live, because we have to give respect to those people that were there. And I think the biggest thing for me when it comes to thinking about decolonization is when educators or non-native people talk about us, talk about us like we're here today. A lot of the time it's the native people used to do this,
Yeah.
the native people used to live like this. And yeah, that's true. That's in regards to, our ancestors and maybe our elders generation, but look at the good and all of the things that's going on for us today. We're contemporary. We make beadwork, but we also might do different types of art. There's native poets, there's doctors, lawyers. We do everything that everybody else does. And hopefully that, not only can we acknowledge Native people today, but also create a space to talk about Native people in the future. I think it's important to invest all of the things that we do now with our young people in mind for when they're older, because I feel that for me, I've always had people in the community uplifting me in what I do, and that's what I strive to do for the younger generation, either people a little younger than me or, down to the kids, because I know that when I'm an elder, these are things I hope that they'll take into consideration, want to learn, even just let's go for a walk at the park and then turn it into gathering something or pointing out plants. It's just introducing those things that our old ones did with, our parents or grandparents. And so it's kind of like them passing that knowledge to us, and we have that obligation to do the same for the younger people. So I think it comes to the same thing as land back. When we think about fighting for water rights or fighting for having tribal land back for, just to have it or to build housing or to invest in something for the tribe or just for the people.
Yeah.
I think it's important to include everybody, include everybody's voices, and to make sure that, those people who are quote unquote in power really understand, all of our voices matter. And there's so much support out there, and there's so much money that is out there that can help support local tribes that are trying to get land back. And I think that is a good way that non-native people can be allies, is to help support that land back movement, to help a lot of our tribal people get their land back. It was taken from us, and it's long overdue for it to be returned. And there's a lot of ways that people can support that, whether they're native or non-native. It's not just a us problem.
Yeah.
It takes everybody's help and support to make these things happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And up in Point Arena, they just bought some land that had some houses on it and stuff. And I believe when people move into those houses, they'll be paying rent to the tribe. So that's an amazing like you said, investing in land that has structures on it that eventually will like go into income for something for the tribe, so they have something other than just a casino. And now they bought another plot of land that has a house on it with other stuff. So it's amazing to see those things happening, because they're thinking, like you said, they're thinking for the future, and they're thinking towards getting more things possible and then I think they're talking about more houses as well, so people can live up in Point Arena, because the pandemic really messed with people, so they didn't have jobs, and they don't have anywhere to go because they didn't live on the res, and the list is really long for housing a lot of the times on the reses, so it's like really hard. So I think those things are awesome to hear those things happening, and to see people like you out there fighting for land back and fighting for those voices. But like you said, it doesn't need to be just us. It needs to be allies as well out there pushing the issue, that we need our voices heard, and we need it. Like you said, it's way past due time for get this land back and to decolonize.
Mm-hmm.
So that leads me to my next question, which is coming up, and that's going to be: do you and your family gather during Thanksgiving time, or do you guys do anything during Thanksgiving?
Yeah, so I know there are a few movements in the last 3 or 4 years over in different parts of the Bay, parts of Oakland, parts of San Francisco, that have gatherings called Thanksgiving, or they call it Thanks-taking.
Yeah.
For me, I don't really celebrate as far as oh, here's this special holiday where, the Pilgrims and the Indians got together. For me, it's just that morning is sunrise time. We do the sunrise gathering, the sunrise ceremony, other parts of the year as well. But for this ceremony, if anyone out there is listening and is not familiar, we get up when it's dark time in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, and we get together and we pray, and we get dressed in our regalia, our traditional clothes for dance, and we have singers that come and sing for us, and we dance, we sing, we pray together as community, and we dance until that sunrise comes up. And then after we all change and back into our clothes and put our regalia away where it goes. We have a meal together. And so we share food, we share that time with one another, we share the dancing and the praying and the songs, and then we go home and we go off on our day.
Yeah.
For me, you know, when I was growing up, we had a lot of family that lived with us. I lived in a house with my grandparents, my parents, my auntie, some of my uncles and their family. And so for us, every meal was like Thanksgiving. You know, we share laughter, we joke and tease each other, we have food. Um, but I think it's important for people out there that do celebrate Thanksgiving to just remember that, you know, this holiday is a little bit different in our view. You know, we might include traditional food, you know, so it goes to decolonizing our diet and eating more traditional foods. I'm seeing a lot more people starting to take more time to learn how to gather and process acorn, which is really powerful because that was one of our staple foods as Pomo people and a lot of other tribes also. And I think it's really, it makes me happy and it makes me proud to see other young people like myself wanting to learn. And so even in the schools that I work in, um, I work with probably 6 or 7 different school groups, all different types of the month. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've been talking about acorn. We went out and gathered acorn. One day we were just cracking the acorn and looking at the meat inside and, you know, talking about why this is so important. And I think it's made the young people that I work with kind of like, wow, like this is a lot of work. And we only gathered a little bit and just teaching them, you know, we were always gathering this food for the next season, you know, because it has to have time for the tannin to be taken out of the acorn so it's safe for us to eat. And that, you know, whatever you're gathering was usually for that year after. Same thing how we do with a lot of our basket material, because our basket material usually holds a lot of water. And so it usually takes 6 months to a year for that basket material to kind of cure and be usable for us to weave with. And so it's the same thing with acorn, you know, and for me, that goes back to kind of how I was talking about, you know, our elders always had us in mind, you know. Um, I never knew my great grandma or my great grandpa, and they were very traditional people. And even though they didn't know me, they had me in mind because a lot of the traditions, like beadwork, basket weaving, dancing, language, skipped my grandpa and it skipped my dad, but I was able to get a lot of it back. And I'm able to do beadwork with my dad. When I go and gather pine cones for pine nuts, my dad goes with me and we pick together and we process things together. When my grandpa was alive, I would sit with him and I would teach him words in our language because he had Alzheimer's
Oh,
and other health issues that kind of messed up his memory. And so, you know, even though that kind of feels backward, you know, we would expect to get those teachings from our elders. You know, we're powerful. Our generation is powerful, and you know, we come from greatness. We come from strength, and so we have to not just acknowledge it, but take hold of it. You know, we might not know everything, but just knowing a little bit, that's a start to knowing more and learning more. And when we know stuff, we have to teach it because that's how we can pass it on and other people can pass it on if they learn it from us. So, um, you know, just being able to pass down things like beadwork or just things like this, just sharing a little knowledge or just sharing a conversation, you know, you never know what you're going to pick up. You never know what you're going to learn when you just sit and listen sometimes. And I think that's a thing I really took for granted growing up because I grew up mostly with my grandpa and all of his brothers and sisters. And I had cousins, but a lot of them were a lot older than me. So I always had elders, and my grandpa's older brother, my uncle, told me when I was little, you know, when elders are talking, don't talk over them. Try to sit and listen, because whatever they're going to say, even if it's a joke or, you know, they're talking mess, talking to each other like that, you never know what you're going to pick up when you just sit and listen to them. And so I try to do the same now, and I try to teach that to my younger family. You know, if you have questions, you know, look at your aunties, look at your grandmas, your grandpas, your older siblings, you know, just know that there's always people around you that are going to teach you things. And it's good that we want to ask questions,
Yeah,
because that's how we're going to learn, you know.
exactly. You're absolutely right. And when I went home, I sat down with my aunt, and she was just reading off a couple words from a paper she had, and it felt amazing. It felt so good to hear that. And me and my mom were sitting there with her, and she was saying them, and then we'd repeat them right afterwards, and it just felt like so amazing because, you know, my aunt, my mom, and then me there. It just felt right. And then she gave me a clock actually with the letters from are the numbers 1 through 12, and it has the saying or how to say it underneath in the Pomo language. And it's amazing
That's beautiful.
that like you said, like times like right now, we're sharing with each other, and I learned so much from each of these episodes or each of these interviews that I do from each person, and I want to take that and apply these to my everyday life, because you know,
Definitely.
yeah, because it's hearing from people like you and your experiences and the way you're teaching and the way you want to pass it on is definitely how I want to learn, you know, because growing up, I didn't always, like you said, you're like you would want to listen to your uncles, you would want to listen to your aunts. I didn't always do that. I always, you know, thought I knew it all, or, you know, you're not saying the right things. I know this or whatever, you know. And in hindsight,
Yeah.
I wish I did learn more things, but I mean, you know, life's not over. We can still learn. We can still do things. And when you were saying about teasing each other at the dinner table, I want to bring that into this podcast as well, because I think people need to see the native humor. They need to see the jokes,
Oh, yeah.
because it's constant. It's a constant just back and forth with it. It's a constant. There's a constant laugh going on. There's a constant, you
Mhm.
know, every giggle. There's a constant. Somebody's hitting you because they're laughing too hard. You know what I mean? And they need to see it more than just Reservation Dogs, because that's an amazing show and it's an amazing representation of who we are. But
Yeah.
they need to see actual people, and you know,
Yeah.
and those people are actual people too. But like the wider perspective than just actors, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and it's amazing that it's creating a platform for like things like this to happen, so people can reach out and learn, and who knows who will see this episode and learn from you, or want to follow you, or want to get stuff from your shop or whatever, you know. And that's my main goal in this podcast, is to promote artists like you, people like you on the front lines, actively doing activism for the land back, for their tribe, for their people, and that's amazing. And I love that you're out there collecting things for your art. That's so amazing. Collecting or what is it? Pine oak, right?
Pine nuts.
Pine nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like that is so like that people need to understand the process that goes into your jewelry, and they need to understand
Hmm.
that this is hard work, and they need to pay for this amazing work, or trade for this amazing work. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
and I give it up to you, because that's amazing. I love your artwork, and I can't wait to promote more of you. You know what I mean? Because I see everything you're doing, on the internet, and I just love to support. You know, and that's all the questions that I had. And I know we talked about bringing up MMIW, so that
Yeah.
definitely wanted to have you bring that up. And yeah, and there's a couple names that you wanted to talk about, so for sure, talk about those names.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, a little bit of what I do also is just try to kind of help promote the awareness, what we call the awareness of MMIW. And MMIW is the acronym for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. This is a a pretty big issue going around a lot of our Native communities, Indigenous communities. Um, Although it's for the missing and murdered women, it happens to our men as well. And just like things around domestic violence and things like rape and abuse, um, a lot of that awareness is mostly around our women. But again, we have to remember that this happens to our men too. And it happens at all ages. It happens, unfortunately, to our youth, our adults and elders as well. And so I just want to raise awareness of that. Um, Nicole Smith is a woman up on our coast, coastal Pomo, who was murdered a few years back, and her case was never solved fully. So that is, I believe, considered an active case, and so
It
um, yeah. And then Khadijah Britton, she is still missing. She's been missing over 3 years now, and she comes from my valley in Round Valley. And just like a lot of our women that this happens to, our men that this happens to, these are parents, sometimes grandparents. This is someone's niece, nephew, brother, sister, mom, dad. Um, and it's important that we say their names. We keep their spirit alive. And for people who, for whatever reason may have forgotten that this happens and is continuing to happen, just being aware, reminding people of why we need to talk about these things. Yes, it's hard to talk about, but, we have to be that spokesperson sometimes for these people, for these families. um, I just want to share too, for anyone who wants updates and more information on some of the movements, some of the resources for families that are dealing with these types of situations. There's an organization based here in California called Sovereign Bodies Institute. They have a lot of really good resources. I know for missing people, they have a form that you can fill out with that person's information, and they'll help create a flyer to help raise awareness that that person is missing, which a lot of people do in the community. And there's also services that can help with more legal things that are going on. So definitely a good resource. If you can't use it, just helping other people be aware of that. And that Sovereign Bodies Institute, they do have a website, and they also have social media. So here on Instagram, on Facebook, they post a lot of flyers for people who pass on, and also for active missing people. And it's good that we have this resource through social media, because we have that option to share and to post to our stories and to send it to other people.
yeah,
And so that is one of the ways we are able to use social media to help spread the word of things like this happening.
absolutely. And those two names, I remember them. I remember Khadijah from high school. She was an amazing basketball player. And yeah, those two names are two names I for sure want to push for people to know their stories as much as I can in every chance that I get. And I try to say their names every podcast. And that's just that's just two names in a long list of names, and a long list of names that we don't even know how many exist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So it's yeah. So everyone, please, if you're following or listening, please go follow those pages that she just mentioned. Please go listen to their stories. Please go listen to who they were. There's Facebook pages for Khadijah. I think there might be. I don't know if there's one for Nicole. There's definitely ways to learn about these women and learn their stories and learn about who they were. And
Mm-hmm.
Bernadette is pushing every like as much as she can for her sister's story to be heard. Yeah, so this is a huge topic for me. I definitely want to push as much as I can because it's 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 ridiculous that so many women are going missing, and we want to continue our our people. We want to continue everything. We want to continue the life of Native American people. We want to continue the bloodlines, and this is a way of not helping us find these women. This is a way of kind of silencing us and not allowing us to be
Hmm.
heard. And it's unfortunate that the media doesn't think about us, doesn't really um, doesn't put our stories out there, and it's very unfortunate.
And I think, when we look at, I know for a lot of people, I'm a part of I think it's for Facebook, a group chat that sends out different information for actively missing people, and so the flyers will come through on that feed, and they were saying a lot of the people on that page were really upset hearing about, I can't remember her last name, Maddie something. She was a non-native woman that went missing, and there was huge news coverage. There was she was like on the front page of a bunch of magazines and a lot of the grocery stores in the state that she was in. And someone in our group spoke up and said, in that same state where this woman went missing, over 20 other women from the Native community in that same place, um, the same thing was happening to them, and not one person knew a name,
Yeah,
not one person knew a family member. Um, they had no news coverage. They weren't on a magazine. Nobody knew who they were. It was just like, gone, poof. And so, that really touched my heart because um, before I was really, actively looking into cases and just wanting to educate myself on families that go through this, people who are survivors of being trafficked, people who are survivors of domestic violence. This is all within the same movement of, if you're a survivor of these things, this is a space where you can share your story. And this is a space where you can speak up and help be an advocate for someone else that is going through that same struggle that you may have gone through. And again, it's a sensitive topic, and it's hard to hear these stories. But just like you had mentioned, it's important that we listen to their stories and that we hear what those people had to go through or what the families are going through. Um, I couldn't imagine how Khadijah's parents feel and grandparents feel, um, her cousins, sisters, brothers, everybody
yeah,
in the community, because the valley is not that big,
it's
and
tiny.
to have someone just go missing, it's hard to wrap your brain around. Same thing for Point Arena.
Absolutely.
It's not very big. When we look at, small cities like Santa Rosa, or when we look at like the town of Windsor or Healdsburg, these are rural, more city like, but when we look at the res, it's pretty small, and to think that there's so many people that experience this and no one's talking about it. And so, um, even though it's uncomfortable, you have to push yourself through um, that uncomfortableness, because for us, just like sharing right now, there may be people out there who don't know anything about MMIW and the work that people are doing in different communities to help raise awareness. And um, there are a lot of events where we gather, places like Sacramento and San Francisco, that we gather and wear our red skirts in honor of missing and murdered Indigenous women, um, and the men, all relatives. This is a big issue for the LGBTQ plus community as well. And in Native community, we'll often refer to those relatives as being two-spirited. This is an issue for them as well. And I just am really grateful to be able to share these information, these resources. Um, I just feel that we should all have the ability to be informed about these things, and um, whatever you do with the information is up to you. But I think that for me, it's my obligation to just share the resources and just help spread that word of what is going on in our communities, because I feel that the more aware we are, the more accountable we can hold people, and the more accountable we can be. Um, because I know for me, like, a lot of my little cousins are like my nieces and my nephews. I don't have children, and so a lot of them are like my children, and I just am always trying to be diligent in trying to help educate and just make them aware, you know, the whole, don't talk to strangers,
Yeah.
and don't just give out your number, don't reach out to people over social media or games that you can chat and stuff. It's just, we have to be able to teach them how to be smart so they have those skills to be safe, and hopefully they tell their friends or they tell their siblings how to stay safe, and um, just just be accountable for each other, check in with each other, and just make sure that we can all all keep each other safe, because a lot of the time our community, that's our family. Whether we know each other or not really know each other, we're all connected in some way, and so we have to do our part to keep each other safe and to watch out for one another.
Absolutely. Man, this was such a great conversation. I'm so happy that I had you come on today. I just don't want to get cut off because I think at an hour we might get cut off. That happened to me before, and I wasn't able to save the video. And
Um,
I absolutely want people to listen to this back because this was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for coming on, and I learned so much from you. I definitely will have to get your email so I can email this to you so you can share it too. I'm going to share it on Instagram, and then I'll share it on YouTube as well. So if
cool.
anybody wants to go ahead and replay this, definitely please go replay that and listen to your wise words. And yeah, thank you so much because you came on and
Thank you.
you really spoke some amazing words, and I'm definitely going to take that to me with me into the future for sure.
Thank you. And I just want to encourage everybody to just be yourself. Remember where you come from, know who you come from, know your people, because that's who we are. That's our strength, that's our resilience. And our elders and our ancestors went through so much for us to just be here today, and there's so much to be grateful for. I know with COVID and other things, there's I feel been certain points in, our youth fell off, and the whole thing, like, a lot of our reservations have been touched by fentanyl and other all kinds of things. A lot of our communities are touched by suicide and drug and alcohol problems. But at the end of the day, when we come together and we gather and we have ceremony, or we just make time to be with each other as a community, we're each other's strength. We lift each other up, and we have to remember that. As much as the world can weigh down on us individually, or just as families, we got to remember that we have that ability to be each other's strength and lift each other up, and we got to start doing that more.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. We need to start sharing each other's art. We need to start sharing each other's stuff and promoting each other more. And I absolutely
Yeah.
100% agree. And thank you again for coming on. I super appreciate
Yeah. Thank you.
it. Okay.
I hope more people on here.
Yeah, seriously. Let me know if you have anybody that would recommend, or if anybody in here wants to join, please message me and we'll make something happen for sure.
Blessings. Have a good night.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for everybody that watched. I'm super excited about this episode. It was an amazing episode. Elliot, if you still want to join me, we can go live after this. I'm just going to upload it. If anybody wants to rewatch it, Remember Khadijah Britton. Remember Nicole Smith. Um, remember your mental health. Um, and if you're sober, please stay sober because I am, and it's been hard, but you can do it and we can do it. Peace, love, and happiness.